Around 9 a.m. on June 16, 2005, a sanitation worker cleaning near the Kallang River made a chilling discovery. A waterlogged brown carton caught his attention, prompting him to investigate. To his horror, he found human body parts wrapped in transparent blue plastic bags and newspapers inside the carton. He immediately called the police to report the grisly find. When authorities arrived, they confirmed that the carton contained a woman's torso, specifically from the hips to the knees. The precise, bloodless cuts on the body suggested that the murderer had acted with cold precision and remarkable skill in dismembering the victim. The Singapore police were stunned, as such heinous crimes occurred only once every 8 to 10 years from 1970 to 2005. The police quickly cordoned off the area to search for more evidence and the remaining body parts. Considering that the Kallang River connects to the Singapore Strait, a bustling waterway with numerous boats passing through daily, they theorized that the crime might have been committed on a boat, with the body dumped into the sea before drifting to the Kallang River. The investigation expanded to include a review of boat schedules in the Kallang River Bay over the past 2 days, alongside a meticulous search of the surrounding areas. About an hour later, another red carton was found nearby. It contained the upper torso of the victim, though the head was missing. The clean cuts on this section aligned perfectly with the earlier discovery. Fortunately, the upper torso included the arms and hands, allowing police to conduct fingerprint analysis and identify the victim. Additionally, the red carton carried a barcode and product information. Using this lead, investigators traced the carton back to a local store in Singapore, providing a crucial clue in unraveling the mystery. After 6 hours of fingerprint matching, the police finally identified the victim. She was a 22-year-old woman named Lu Hongmei from a small town in Changchun, Jilin Province, China. Lu Hongmei had been in Singapore for 3 years and was working at an electronics factory at 5 North Serangoon Avenue. Once they confirmed her identity, the police went to the factory where Lu Hongmei worked to conduct a thorough investigation. Through learning about Lu Hongmei's relationships, the police identified 2 individuals of interest, Fu Ruqing and Liang Xiaochu. Both were former supervisors of Lu Hongmei and had close relationships with her. The police first interrogated Fu Ruqing. Throughout the interrogation, he remained remarkably calm. According to his testimony, Liang Xiaochu had a romantic relationship with Lu Hongmei. Initially, Lu Hongmei worked in workshop number 4 under his supervision. Seeing her diligence, he frequently showed concern and helped her a lot. Later, Liang Xiaochu was transferred to a managerial position and Lu Hongmei became his subordinate. From that point, Liang Xiaochu and Lu Hongmei's relationship quickly developed. One day, they were scheduled for the night shift, which ended at 7 a.m. the following morning. However, when they returned to work in the evening, they were still wearing the same clothes from the previous day, indicating that they had not gone home. Liang Xiaochu and Lu Hongmei maintained their secret relationship until a colleague discovered it last year. The information provided by Fu Ruqing matched perfectly with a record of inappropriate behavior involving Liang Xiaochu and Lu Hongmei that the police had uncovered. This document, issued by the company on September 27, 2004, detailed the misconduct of an operator and a manager at the office, noting that the manager was married, making their behavior unacceptable. After being reprimanded by company leadership, Lu Hongmei immediately admitted her mistake. In contrast, Liang Xiaochu defended himself, claiming that he was only congratulating Lu Hongmei on her birthday and had no other intentions. However, following this incident, their colleagues became aware of their relationship. During this period, Lu Hongmei was promoted twice consecutively, leading many to believe that she was being backed by her manager. The police then proceeded to interrogate Liang Xiaochu. During this conversation, the police identified Liang Xiaochu as the prime suspect in the case. Liang Xiaochu was born on April 19, 1955 in Singapore. After completing his pre-university education, he served in the military for 2 years. In 1976, he began working at a telecommunications company where he remained for 20 years. In 1996, Liang Xiaochu decided to leave and start his own business. However, due to limited capabilities, he had to close it down after just 1 year. Since April 1997, he has been working at an electronics factory. Liang Xiaochu's salary was approximately 3,700 Singapore dollars a month, which was considered quite high at the time and sufficient to provide his family with a stable life. He was married and had 3 children, 1 son and 2 daughters. At the time of the incident, his wife and eldest daughter were traveling in Thailand, while his son and youngest daughter were at school. So what led the police to suspect Liang Xiaochu as the primary suspect in the case? First, during the interrogation, he consistently denied having a close relationship with Lu Hongmei and accused the police of making baseless assumptions. Second, there was a scratch on the knuckle of his left middle finger. But when asked how he got the injury, he stammered and couldn't provide a clear explanation. Additionally, during the conversation, his hands trembled continuously and his face showed clear signs of tension. These behaviors aroused further suspicion from the police. As a result, the police requested to search Liang Xiaochu's home. Upon hearing this, he appeared slightly panicked, but had no choice but to agree. After some time searching, the police found several crucial clues in Liang Xiaochu's room. These included a Chinese newspaper, a bundle of blue plastic bags, a roll of tape, a rubber hammer, and a chipped kitchen knife. The plastic bags, newspaper, and tape were then sent to the forensic science department for examination. The results showed that these items were identical to those found in the carton containing the body parts. Therefore, the police initially concluded that the rubber hammer and kitchen knife were the tools Liang Xiaochu used to dismember the victim. Since using a kitchen knife to cut through a human body is not easy, Liang Xiaochu had used the hammer to assist. However, these tools alone were not enough to prove that Liang Xiaochu was the one who killed Lu Hongmei. To convict him, the police needed to find more definitive evidence such as blood traces at the crime scene matching the victim's DNA or finding a fragment from the chipped knife in the victim's body. Unfortunately, no such metal fragments were found in the body parts discovered. Therefore, the police needed to locate Lu Hongmei's head and lower legs to gather more clues. On the other hand, since Liang Xiaochu had cleaned the crime scene meticulously, the police thoroughly searched the entire house, but still couldn't find any bloodstains. Even more puzzling was that according to the police's assessment, Liang Xiaochu's home was likely the primary crime scene, and the most probable place for dismemberment was the bathroom. However, this area was unusually clean, clearly having been thoroughly cleaned by him. Despite the suspicious circumstances, the police were ultimately unable to find any additional clues. When the police were at a standstill and considering changing the direction of their investigation, one of the officers suddenly remembered a case from 10 years ago. The situation was very similar to the current one. Although the bathroom had been meticulously cleaned, they still found a drop of blood under the sink. Recalling this, the police officer immediately sat down to thoroughly inspect the sink, but found nothing. As he was about to stand up, his gaze was drawn to the nearby toilet. After a careful examination, he finally discovered a dark red stain, 2 millimeters in diameter, on the underside of the toilet bowl. After comparing the DNA, the police confirmed that it was Lu Hongmei's blood. Faced with irrefutable evidence, Liang Xiaochu confessed to his crime. However, there were still many questions about his motive and the process of committing the crime. Therefore, the police urged him to quickly disclose all details in order to receive leniency from the law. According to Liang Xiaochu's confession on June 15, 2005, taking advantage of the fact that his wife and eldest daughter were traveling abroad and his son and youngest daughter were at school, he invited Lu Hongmei to his house for a conversation. At around 9:50 a.m., Lu Hongmei arrived at Liang Xiaochu's house. They sat and talked, but as the conversation progressed, Lu Hongmei became increasingly emotional. She expressed that their relationship was constantly criticized by others and that she could no longer endure this clandestine life. She hoped Liang Xiaochu would join her in returning to China to build their careers together. However, having grown up in Singapore with a happy family and a high-paying job, Liang Xiaochu naturally refused her proposal. Both of them felt stuck and Lu Hongmei became disheartened. Eventually she suggested, "If that's the case, let's die together so we can be together forever." Seeing Liang Xiaochu's hesitation, she added, "If you're afraid, let me go first, but you must promise to follow me." Liang Xiaochu agreed, Then he took a bath towel and wrapped it around Lu Hongmei's neck. They were sitting face to face, which made strangling much harder compared to doing it from behind, so it took longer. After about 20 minutes of strangling, Lu Hongmei's face started to turn from red to purple, and then to black. She eventually suffocated and collapsed onto the bed. Seeing her distorted face in death, Liang Xiaochu felt disgusted, abandoning his suicide plan, and began thinking about how to dispose of Lu Hongmei's body without being detected. Liang Xiaochu's son and youngest daughter were due to come home from school at 6 p.m., so we had to clean up the scene before then. He dragged Lu Hongmei into the bathroom and used a kitchen knife and hammer to dismember her body. During the process, internal organs fell out, which he casually tossed into the toilet and flushed. At that moment, a drop of blood splattered onto the base of the toilet, which he failed to notice. Liang Xiaochu cut the body into 7 parts, cleaned them, then wrapped them in plastic bags and newspaper before placing them in cartons. Afterward, he began cleaning the bathroom and washed off the blood from himself. Once the initial cleanup was done, he proceeded to dispose of the body parts. First, Liang Xiaochu rode his bicycle to dispose of the feet, shoes, and clothing in a roadside trash bin. Then he took the train to the Singapore River to dispose of the head and calves. Finally, he went to the Kaolang River near his home to dispose of the torso. Around 5 p.m., Liang Xiaochu returned home and began a second round of cleaning the crime scene. This time he cleaned more thoroughly, ensuring all visible stains were removed. He washed the bed linens in the washing machine. The blood stains on the kitchen knife were painstakingly removed using a sharpening stone. After completing everything, Liang Xiaochu changed his clothes and went to work at the electronics factory. On his way, he passed by Mokyo MRT station and discarded Lu Hongmei's handbag and personal items in a nearby trash bin. Liang Xiaochu stated that after dismembering and disposing of the body, he continued to work as usual. Despite knowing he had made a grave mistake, he tried to remain calm and reminded himself not to panic. At 7:30 p.m. on the day of the incident, during the factory roll call, Liang Xiaochu even deliberately asked a colleague to call Lu Hongmei and inquire why she was not at work. The police did not fully believe Liang Xiaochu's statements. However, based on the existing evidence, they could only prove that he committed the murder without being able to determine his motive. If the case were tried according to his confession, it would be classified as manslaughter, resulting in a much lighter sentence. To uncover the truth and seek justice for the victim, the police needed to gather new evidence. They quickly focused their efforts in 2 directions, continuing to search for the remaining body parts of Lu Hongmei and conducting interviews to collect additional witness statements. The search for the remaining body parts faced many challenges. According to Liang Xiaochu's testimony, he had disposed of Lu Hongmei's head and calves in the Singapore River. Therefore, the police deployed a special task force to search along the riverbank, but still could not find the remaining body parts. At this point, the lead investigator had a thought. Perhaps the cartons had drifted ashore and were collected as trash. He then found out that there was a company nearby responsible for cleaning the canals, and they collected waste every 2 days to transport it to a ship at a port several kilometers away. When the police arrived, they discovered that the waste had already been sent to the Namtangong Pagar incineration plant for disposal. The police immediately contacted the incineration plant to halt operations and rushed to the scene. In front of the police were towering piles of trash, making the search for the remaining body parts a significant challenge. They searched through the foul-smelling garbage late into the night, meticulously examining every suspicious piece of waste. After a prolonged search, they finally found the decomposing calves and head. Upon examination, the police confirmed that these body parts belonged to Lu Hongmei. In the remaining leg, they found a metal fragment that matched the chip on the kitchen knife. However, even with this evidence, the police could not entirely discredit Liang Xiaochu's testimony. This was because there were no clear bruises on Lu Hongmei's neck. Typically, strangulation with a rope leaves distinct marks on the neck. But if a soft towel is used, it might not leave visible bruises. Additionally, there were no defensive wounds on the victim's body. The forensic doctor conducted tests for alcohol and drugs on Lu Hongmei's body, and both results were negative. This indicated that the victim was fully conscious and did not resist during the strangulation. Could it be, as Liang Xiaochu claimed, that Lu Hongmei willingly allowed him to strangle her? On this matter, the doctor provided an opinion. When strangling while facing each other, the towel would need to be crossed at the throat and the leverage would be much weaker compared to strangling from behind. Even if the victim were willing, a natural reflex would still cause a defensive reaction. The lack of mark suggests that the event was sudden or unexpected. During the investigation and interviews, the image of Lu Hongmei that the police gathered was entirely different from Liang Xiaochu's descriptions. Before coming to Singapore, Lu Hongmei had studied English at a well-known university in her province. After arriving in Singapore, she was diligent, working to earn money while continuing her studies. On May 20, 2003, she enrolled in an English language training center. By the time of the incident, she had paid over 1,000 Singapore dollars in tuition fees over 2 years. The head of the training center reported that on June 14th, Lu Hongmei had inquired about the schedule and arrangements for upcoming courses. Her sister, Lu Hongwei, also mentioned that on the same day, Lu Hongmei had called her, expressing confidence in passing her upcoming English exam. Given Lu Hongmei's optimistic and forward-looking attitude, it seemed unlikely that she would want to commit suicide. Furthermore, she had always wanted to stay in Singapore, so why would she suggest to Liang Xiaochu that they return to China to pursue their careers? If it wasn't a mutual suicide pact, then what was Liang Xiaochu's real motive? On this point, there was a discrepancy between rumors and the police's perspective. The rumor suggested that Lu Hongmei's death was the result of a failed marriage proposal, making it a crime of passion. In contrast, the police believed that Liang Xiaochu killed her for financial reasons. On March 27, 2004, Lu Hongmei and her sister visited a matchmaking agency in Singapore to find potential dates. The matchmaker described Lu Hongmei as having a gentle personality and graceful manners, and she hoped to find an educated man with good character to marry. The agency introduced her to 5 candidates, among whom she showed interest in a civil servant and a manager. However, these matches did not succeed. During her time working at the factory, it is likely that Liang Xiaochu's mature and calm demeanor attracted Lu Hongmei. Additionally, working together daily made it easier for their relationship to develop quickly. By June of that same year, they officially began their romantic relationship. During this period, Lu Hongmei's intention to continue working and developing her career in Singapore remained unchanged. According to a colleague in January 2005, Lu Hongmei pressured Liang Xiaochu to marry her, and he even accompanied her to look for a rental home. On April 24, 2005, Lu Hongwei, Lu Hongmei's sister, registered her marriage with a Singaporean man and planned to hold the wedding in September of that year. Her future brother-in-law mentioned that he had a vacant house, so her sister invited Lu Hongmei to stay with them and even asked her to be the maid of honor at her wedding. Former manager, Fu Ruchang, stated that Lu Hongmei always admired her sister and hoped to follow in her footsteps, marrying a Singaporean man and building a family together. However, given Liang Xiaochu's circumstances, he clearly could not fulfill Lu Hongmei's desires. During that time, she was often uncertain about whether she should break up with him, especially since a young man seemed to be pursuing her. Rumors spread that Lu Hongmei had pressured Liang Xiaochu to marry her. When he refused, she proposed breaking up, and Liang Xiaochu, unable to accept this, allegedly killed her. However, shortly before the incident, Lu Hongmei reported to the police that her bank card had been used without authorization. When the police checked the ATM surveillance footage, although the person withdrawing the money was wearing a baseball cap, they quickly recognized him as Liang Xiaochu. Regarding this, Liang Xiaochu claimed it was just a prank. On the afternoon of 13th, the two of them had gone to a hotel. He took Lu Hongmei's bank card while she was showering. Knowing her PIN, he withdrew over $2,000 from her card after they checked out that day. However, he claimed that he returned the card and the money to her the very next day, but these lies were quickly exposed. The police did not find the returned cash at Lu Hongmei's home. Furthermore, if he had indeed returned the money, Lu Hongmei would not have needed to report it to the police. Faced with this compelling evidence, Liang Xiaochu could only admit that on 14th upon hearing Lu Hongmei say she had reported him to the police. He feared being caught for stealing the money. He then arranged for Lu Hongmei to come to his house the next morning, saying he would accompany her to the police station. Liang Xiaochu intended to return the money and confess his wrongdoing. But when confronted with Lu Hongmei, he couldn't bring himself to do it. If the truth were eventually discovered, his extramarital affair would become known to his family and friends. This would lead to him losing his job and destroying his reputation. Thus, Liang Xiaochu conceived a sinister plan to kill Lu Hongmei to cover everything up. He deliberately used provocative words to agitate Lu Hongmei, and when she became upset, he suggested the idea of a suicide pact. Naively, Lu Hongmei agreed. On May 3, 2006, Liang Xiaochu's case was officially brought to trial. The prosecution charged him with premeditated murder, but he steadfastly maintained that they had agreed to commit suicide together. He argued that if he had truly intended to harm Lu Hongmei, he would have sustained injuries during the struggle. However, the absence of such injuries, he claimed, proved that she was entirely willing. In response to this stubbornness, the police argued that just because the victim had no defensive wounds did not mean she was willing. It was highly possible that the significant strength disparity prevented her from resisting. The judge then asked Liang Xiaochu to demonstrate how he used the towel to strangle the victim. During this reenactment, he even revealed a bizarre smile. On May 19, 2006, the Singapore High Court ruled that Lu Hongmei had no intention of committing suicide and that her death was entirely caused by Liang Xiaochu. Therefore, the court sentenced Liang Xiaochu to death. He felt unjustly treated and appealed, but all appeals were subsequently rejected. Finally, on October 30, 2007, he was executed for his crime. The Cowlang River murder case was closed, but it left behind many painful lessons. It revealed that beneath seemingly normal appearances, people can harbor frightening dark sides. Lu Hongmei's story reminds us to be cautious in our relationships, especially when far from home. This case ultimately resulted in justice being served, but it came at the tragic cost of a young, ambitious woman's life. Her death serves as a sobering reminder of the fragility of life and the importance of staying vigilant. It is our hope that this story encourages others to cherish their lives more deeply and to remain cautious in the face of potential dangers. Let it be a lesson that, while justice can be achieved, the price of such tragedies can never be fully measured. Jacob Rasmussen, a 20-year-old massage therapist from Naples, Florida, had moved from a small town in Minnesota to pursue better opportunities and enjoy the warmer climate. Known for his good looks, athletic build, and charming personality, Jacob quickly became popular among his clients, especially older women. His ability to make people feel special helped him build a loyal client base. Jacob's charm also led him into the world of sugar relationships, where younger individuals engage with older, wealthier partners in exchange for gifts and financial support. Jacob had several sugar mommies, but his primary one was Veronica Hayes, a 59-year-old astrologist. While Jacob relished the perks of these relationships, they brought complications and tensions into his life. In the days before his death, Jacob was excited about his future. He had recently received an Audi SUV as a generous gift from one of his clients, which he proudly showcased to friends. He was also planning a trip to Disney World with friends, a trip he had eagerly anticipated for months. Jacob's Instagram was filled with posts about his upcoming plans, pictures of his new car, countdowns to his Disney trip, and moments of optimism. Despite the complexities surrounding his life, he remained upbeat, with an infectious smile and a positive attitude that endeared him to friends and clients alike. Known for his ambition and drive, Jacob's life was full of promise and exciting plans. Plans that would, tragically, be cut short in an unexpected and shocking turn of events. On the morning of August 12, 2016, Jacob Rasmussen's neighbor, Linda Martino, started her day like any other. Linda was a 95-year-old retired school teacher from Brooklyn who lived next door to Jacob in their Naples, Florida apartment complex. She often chatted with Jacob and had become concerned when she noticed his car, a shiny new Audi SUV, hadn't moved in 2 weeks. Linda thought it was odd because Jacob usually had a busy schedule. Around 9 a.m., Linda decided to check on Jacob. She knocked on his door but got no answer. Worried, she used the spare key Jacob had given her for emergencies. As soon as she opened the door, she felt something was wrong. The apartment was too quiet, and a faint, unpleasant smell filled the air. Linda called out Jacob's name, but there was no response. She walked through the living room and into the hallway. When she reached the bathroom, she saw a horrifying sight. Jacob was lying face down in the toilet, naked. His head was submerged in the water, and his body was limp. Linda screamed and backed away, her heart racing. Shaking, Linda ran back to her apartment and called 911. Her voice trembled as she explained what she had found. "I think my neighbor is dead," she told the operator. "He's in his bathroom, and it looks like something happened to him." The 911 operator stayed on the line with Linda, trying to keep her calm until the police arrived. Linda was in shock, pacing back and forth in her apartment and glancing nervously at Jacob's door. She couldn't believe what she had seen. Just a few days ago, Jacob had been full of life, talking about his plans to visit Disney World and showing off his new car. Within minutes, the Naples Police Department arrived at the scene. Officers secured the area and began their investigation. Linda was asked to wait outside while the police did their work. She sat on a bench, shaking and holding her head in her hands, trying to process the tragic event. News of Jacob's death quickly spread through the apartment complex. Neighbors gathered outside, whispering and speculating about what had happened. The local news soon picked up the story, with reporters arriving to cover the shocking discovery. Cameras captured the scene, showing the police presence and the concerned faces of the residents. Jacob's sudden and violent death left everyone in shock, especially those who knew him well. He was young, full of potential, and had a bright future ahead. Now his life was tragically cut short, and his friends and family were left to mourn the loss. The Naples Police Department arrived quickly at the scene after Linda Martino's 911 call on August 12, 2016. Detective Samuel Jenkins led the investigation. He was known for his attention to detail and had solved many high-profile cases. His partner, Officer Karen Blake, was known for her sharp intuition and calm demeanor. As they entered Jacob Rasmussen's apartment, the officers immediately noticed the eerie silence. The living room was tidy, with no signs of a struggle. A flat-screen TV was on the wall, and a few magazines, including the latest issue of GQ, were on the coffee table. The apartment looked normal, but the unsettling smell hinted at something more sinister. Detective Jenkins and Officer Blake moved cautiously toward the bathroom, where Jacob's body was found. The bathroom was small with white tiles and a modern shower. Jacob's naked body was slumped over the toilet, his head submerged in the water. There were no visible signs of a break-in, and nothing seemed out of place, but the scene was disturbing. Jacob had been drowned. His head had been forced into the toilet, and there were bruises on his arms and neck, indicating a struggle. Detective Jenkins noted the position of the body and the bruising pattern, suggesting that Jacob had fought back against his attacker. The bathroom itself was clean, with no blood or other obvious evidence. The police began their methodical investigation. They took photographs of the entire apartment, collected fingerprints, and searched for any possible clues. They found a set of kitchen knives, but none appeared to be missing. Officer Blake found Jacob's phone on the kitchen counter. It was a new model, an iPhone 6S, and it might hold valuable information. She carefully bagged it for further analysis. Detective Jenkins and his team interviewed neighbors, including Linda Martino, to gather more information about Jacob's recent activities and any potential visitors. Linda mentioned seeing a few of Jacob's clients come and go, but nothing seemed unusual. She also noted the new Audi SUV Jacob had received recently. The forensic team arrived and began their examination of the body and the apartment, but used luminol to check for traces of blood, even in areas that appeared clean. They also checked for hair, fibers, and other small pieces of evidence that might have been left behind by the attacker. As the investigation progressed, the police began to piece together a timeline of Jacob's last hours. They hoped that his phone and the security cameras in the apartment complex might provide additional clues. The clean state of the apartment and the lack of obvious evidence suggested that the killer had taken great care to cover their tracks. The tragic scene at Jacob's apartment marked the beginning of a complex investigation. Detective Jenkins and Officer Blake knew they had a difficult case ahead of them. They were determined to find out who was responsible for the young man's untimely death and bring them to justice. The first suspect in the investigation was Veronica Hayes, a 59-year-old astrologist. Veronica was well known in Naples for her larger-than-life personality and her impressive client list, which included several celebrities. She lived in a lavish mansion decorated with exotic crystals and zodiac signs. Veronica had a reputation for being generous, often gifting expensive items to her friends and clients. However, she was also known to be possessive and obsessive, especially in her personal relationships. It was no secret Veronica had been in a sexual relationship with Jakob Rasmussen, acting as his sugar mommy. She showered him with gifts, including the 70-inch flat-screen TV found in his house. When the police first questioned Veronica, she was calm but visibly upset. She admitted to being deeply hurt when she discovered that Jacob had been seeing other women. Despite her feelings, she denied any involvement in his death. Detective Samuel Jenkins and Officer Karen Blake conducted the interrogation. They were careful and thorough, asking Veronica about her whereabouts on the night of the murder. Veronica claimed, like a typical Virgo, she was at home, alone, reading the latest issue of Astrology Today and meditating. She insisted she had not seen Jacob for several days before his death and respected his need for privacy as a Scorpio. The police dug deeper into Veronica's background. They found that she had a history of intense relationships, including 3 failed marriages that often ended badly, something she readily admitted to, saying she couldn't help it as someone with their moon in Cancer. Former friends and clients described her as charming but controlling. Several mentioned that Veronica Cancer moon could make her very jealous, especially when she felt betrayed. This gave the police a possible motive for her to harm Jacob. During the interrogation, Veronica's demeanor shifted. She became more defensive and agitated, particularly when asked about her relationship with Jacob. She accused the police of unfairly targeting her because of her wealth, high-profile lifestyle, and belief in astrology. Despite her protests, the police continued to press her for details. The police also examined Veronica's phone records. They found multiple calls and text messages to Jacob in the days leading up to his death. Some of the messages were affectionate, while others were increasingly profane, vicious, desperate, and accusatory. This evidence painted a picture of a relationship that was unraveling, with Veronica struggling to maintain control. Despite the mounting evidence and Veronica's increasingly erratic behavior, there was no direct proof linking her to the crime scene. The police needed more concrete evidence to make an arrest. As the investigation continued, Veronica remained a key suspect, her actions and history keeping her under close scrutiny. The second suspect the police investigated was Bryony Mitchell Keynes, a 68-year-old Australian millionaire with quite the shocking backstory. Bryony had recently moved to Naples after facing legal trouble in Australia after a newspaper published allegations showing Bryony allegedly trafficking asylum seekers to work in her restaurant's chain for, quote, subhuman wages. Known for her outgoing and vivacious personality, Bryony was also fiercely protective of her friends and had a temper that could flare up unexpectedly. Bryony had started a sexual relationship with Jacob Rasmussen shortly before his death. As another of his sugar mommies, she was generous, giving him expensive gifts, including the Audi SUV he received just before he died. When the police questioned Bryony, she was cooperative but guarded. She acknowledged her relationship with Jacob and expressed shock at his death. Detective Samuel Jenkins and Officer Karen Blake led the interrogation. They asked Bryony about her activities on the night Jacob was killed. Bryony stated she had been at Naked Masquerade Ball at the Naples Grande Beach Resort, mingling with other wealthy attendees and enjoying the evening. She provided the names of several people who could confirm her alibi, including local business owners and socialites. During the interrogation, Bryony remained composed, but her demeanor shifted when asked about Jacob's other relationships. She seemed irritated and defensive, insisting she had no idea about his involvement with other women. The police found her reaction suspicious, as it hinted at possible jealousy and a motive for harming Jacob. Detective Jenkins and Officer Blake searched Bryony's home for any evidence linking her to the crime. They found several expensive gifts she had planned to give Jacob, including a jet ski, an air hockey table, and a PlayStation 4, indicating her deep investment in their relationship. In addition, they saw several large withdrawals from her bank account in the weeks leading up to Jacob's death. While this alone was not incriminating, it suggested she was heavily involved in Jacob's life and willing to spend significant amounts of money on him. They also discovered a series of text messages between Bryony and Jacob. The messages started flirty but became more intense, with Bryony expressing frustration over Jacob's lack of commitment. Despite Bryony's cooperation and strong alibi, the police remained suspicious of her involvement. Her intense feelings for Jacob and possible jealousy provided a motive, but like with Veronica Hayes, there was no direct evidence linking her to the murder. As the investigation continued, Bryony's actions and connections to Jacob kept her under close watch by the authorities. The third suspect in the investigation was Marcus Dean, a 21-year-old who had been in a rivalry with Jacob Rasmussen. Marcus was known in Naples for being competitive and ambitious. He was also a sugar baby, catering to wealthy, married couples bored with their humdrum sex life. Marcus was driven to be the best in his circle, always striving to outdo his peers in sexual performance and number of sugar parents. His personality was described as hot-headed, and he had a history of getting into arguments and fights, often fueled by alcohol. The police questioned Marcus shortly after Jacob's body was found. Detective Samuel Jenkins and Officer Karen Blake led the interrogation, focusing on the nature of Marcus and Jacob's relationship. Marcus admitted that he and Jacob had been rivals, both vying for the attention and gifts of the same wealthy women. He described their relationship as tense, but insisted it was all part of the competition. On the night of Jacob's death, Marcus claimed he was at a local bar, Patty Murphy's, with friends, celebrating a recent orgy request with some wealthy couples. He provided the names of his friends who could confirm his alibi. However, Marcus's reputation for getting into fights after drinking raised suspicions about his possible involvement in Jacob's death. The police dug into Marcus's background, finding numerous reports of altercations with other sugar babies and clients. Many described Marcus as aggressive and quick to anger, especially when he felt threatened or disrespected. This temperament, combined with his rivalry with Jacob, gave the police a potential motive for murder. During the interrogation, Marcus initially remained calm, but became defensive when asked about his whereabouts and relationship with Jacob. He denied any involvement in Jacob's death and accused the police of trying to pin the crime on him due to their rivalry. His agitation grew as the questioning continued, suggesting he was hiding something. Detective Jenkins and Officer Blake searched Marcus's apartment for evidence. They found a few items linking him to Jacob, including a gold chain that Jacob had posted about on social media saying it was a gift from a client. The police also discovered a series of text messages between Marcus and Jacob. The messages revealed escalating tensions, with Marcus accusing Jacob of stealing his clients and threatening to teach that bleep a bleeping lesson. The police also reviewed security footage from Patty Murphy's on the night of Jacob's death. The footage confirmed Marcus's presence at the bar, but there was a 2-hour gap where Marcus was unaccounted for. This window of time raised further suspicion, as it was enough time for him to commit the crime and return to the bar. Despite the mounting evidence and Marcus's suspicious behavior, there was still no direct proof linking him to Jacob's murder. The police continued to keep Marcus under close watch, hoping to uncover more information that could either confirm or clear their suspicions. On August 18, 2016, 6 days after Jacob Rasmussen's body was found, the Naples Police Department received a breakthrough. The day was hot and sunny, with temperatures soaring into the mid-90s. Detective Samuel Jenkins and Officer Karen Blake were in the police station when they received a call from a local pawn shop owner who had found something unusual while inventorying recently pawned items. He told the police that a gold bracelet, inscribed with the initials JAR, had been pawned 2 days before Jacob's death. Jacob had posted a picture of this same bracelet on his social media, saying it was a gift from a client. The police immediately headed to the pawn shop located on 5th Avenue South, a busy area filled with shops and restaurants. At the pawn shop, records showed that the bracelet had been pawned by Marcus Dean. This new evidence placed Marcus at the center of the investigation once again. Detective Jenkins and Officer Blake were determined to dig deeper. The police brought Marcus back in for questioning. This time, they confronted him with the evidence of the bracelet. Marcus's demeanor shifted from defensive to visibly nervous. He stumbled over his words as he tried to explain why he had the bracelet. Marcus claimed that Jacob had given it to him as a gift, but the police were skeptical given their contentious history. Detective Jenkins and Officer Blake also reviewed security footage from the pawn shop. The footage clearly showed Marcus entering the shop and pawning the bracelet. The timestamp on the video matched the date on the transaction records, leaving little doubt about Marcus' actions. The police used this footage to challenge Marcus' story further. The police also re-examined the security footage from Patty Murphy's bar on the night of Jacob's death. They discovered that Marcus had left the bar for 2 hours, providing him with enough time to commit the crime. This new evidence painted a clearer picture of Marcus's possible involvement in Jacob's murder. With the bracelet, the threatening text messages, and the suspicious gap in Marcus's alibi, the police felt they had enough to proceed. Detective Jenkins and Officer Blake presented their findings to the district attorney, who agreed that the evidence was compelling. The police were now focused on gathering more information to strengthen their case against Marcus. They continued to interview witnesses and piece together the events leading up to Jacob's death, determined to bring justice for the young man whose life was tragically cut short. On August 22, 2016, the Naples Police Department made a breakthrough in Jacob Rasmussen's murder case. Detective Samuel Jenkins and Officer Karen Blake had gathered enough evidence to identify the murderer, Veronica Hayes. Veronica, a 59-year-old astrologist, was known for her extravagant lifestyle and powerful personality. Despite her public charm, she had a dark, obsessive side, especially in her relationships. The investigation revealed that Veronica's obsession with Jacob had grown dangerously intense. She was furious when she discovered that Jacob was seeing other older women for sex and receiving expensive gifts from them, including the Audi SUV from Bryony Mitchell Keynes. Veronica's jealousy and anger boiled over on the night of August 1, 2016. On that night, Veronica confronted Jacob at his apartment about his new car. An argument erupted, and in a fit of rage, Veronica drowned Jacob in his own toilet. She forced his head into the water until he stopped struggling, leaving bruises on his arms and neck. To humiliate him further and make it look like he drowned himself, she stripped off his clothes, making the scene appear even more degrading. Detective Jenkins and Officer Blake pieced together the events through witness statements, security footage, and forensic evidence. Veronica's alibi, which claimed she was home reading Astrology Today and meditating, fell apart when phone records showed she was near Jacob's apartment at the time of the murder. Furthermore, forensic analysis of Veronica's clothing revealed traces of Jacob's blood, linking her directly to the crime scene. On the morning of August 22nd, the police moved in to arrest Veronica. They arrived at her mansion, a grand estate adorned with astrological symbols and crystals. Veronica was taken by surprise, her confident demeanor cracking as she was handcuffed and led to the police car. She protested loudly, accusing the police of targeting her because of her wealth and status. The arrest sent shock waves through the Naples community. Jacob's family, who had been devastated by his death, felt a mix of relief and sorrow. They were grateful that the murderer had been caught but heartbroken over the senseless loss of their son. Veronica's friends and clients were equally shocked, struggling to reconcile the generous woman they knew with the brutal crime she had committed. Veronica Hayes was charged with second-degree murder. Her trial would reveal more about the dark side of her personality and the tragic obsession that led her to take Jacob's life. The arrest marked a crucial step in the quest for justice, but the journey was far from over. Veronica Hayes' trial for the murder of Jacob Rasmussen began in October 2016. The courtroom was packed with journalists, community members, and activists. The case had drawn national attention, with many people intrigued by the bizarre astrology defense Veronica used. She claimed she was being discriminated against because she was a Virgo, a sign known for being meticulous and perfectionistic. The prosecution, led by District Attorney Martin Delgado, argued that Veronica's obsession with Jacob had driven her to murder. Delgado, a 45-year-old with a reputation for being tough on crime, presented the evidence collected by Detective Jenkins and Officer Blake. He showed the jury the phone records placing Veronica near Jacob's apartment, the forensic evidence linking her to the scene, and the bruises on Jacob's body indicating a struggle. Delgado painted a picture of a woman consumed by jealousy and rage who had meticulously planned and executed the murder. He called witnesses who testified about Veronica's possessive nature and her increasing anger towards Jacob's other relationships. Delgado's argument was clear. Veronica's jealousy had turned deadly. The defense attorney, Nancy Price, took a different approach. Price, a 50-year-old known for her unconventional tactics, focused on the so-called astrology defense. She argued that Veronica was being unfairly targeted because of her zodiac sign. Price brought in experts who testified about Virgo characteristics, emphasizing that Veronica's actions were influenced by her astrological traits rather than a criminal mindset. Veronica herself took the stand, carefully claiming that she was a victim of discrimination. She insisted she had no intention of killing Jacob and that the incident was a tragic accident. Her testimony was supported by groups like Virgos United and Americans Against Birth Sign Discrimination, who protested outside the courthouse throughout the trial. They held signs demanding fair treatment for all astrological signs and decrying the injustice against Virgos. Despite the prosecution's strong case, the jury was swayed by the defense's argument. On November 15, 2016, Veronica was found guilty of manslaughter instead of murder. The judge sentenced her to 10 years in prison, a decision that shocked many who had expected a harsher punishment. Jacob's family was devastated by the verdict. They felt that justice had not been served and that Veronica's wealth and influence had played a role in her lighter sentence. Friends and supporters of Jacob were equally outraged, feeling that the trial had turned into a spectacle rather than a pursuit of justice. Veronica's supporters celebrated the verdict, viewing it as a victory against astrological discrimination. The trial and its outcome sparked widespread debate about the role of unconventional defenses in the legal system and the influence of public opinion on judicial decisions. After Veronica Hayes' trial ended, the lives of everyone involved were changed significantly. Veronica began serving her 10-year sentence at the Florida Women's Reception Center, a medium-security prison located in Ocala. Her trial had drawn considerable media attention, and she became a controversial figure. She continued to claim she was a victim of discrimination due to her astrological sign, using the prison's library to write letters and articles about her experience. Her case remained a topic of discussion in astrological and legal circles. Jacob Rasmussen's family in Minnesota struggled to cope with the outcome of the trial. They felt the 10-year sentence was too lenient for a crime as brutal as Jacob's murder. The media frequently covered their reactions, highlighting their disappointment and grief. They continued to advocate for harsher penalties for crimes of this nature and sought to keep Jacob's memory alive through community events and online memorials. Marcus Dean, who had been a suspect in the case, faced continued scrutiny from the public. Though he was cleared of any involvement in Jacob's murder, his reputation was tarnished by his rivalry with Jacob and his history of altercations. He struggled to find work and had to deal with the fallout from the media coverage, which painted him as a potential murderer. Brian E. Mitchell Keynes, another suspect, returned to Australia and faced her own challenges. The negative publicity from the cases affected her restaurant business, and she dealt with backlash from customers and critics. Bryony continued to live a quiet life, trying to distance herself from the controversy surrounding the case. The murder of Jacob Rasmussen and the subsequent trial had a lasting impact on everyone involved. It brought attention to issues of justice and discrimination and left a mark on the community of Naples, Florida. The case became a cautionary tale about the influence of personal biases and unconventional defenses in the legal system. The protagonist of the story is Saki Kondo, born in Himeji City, Hyogo Prefecture. Saki worked as a saleswoman for a parts manufacturing company located in Mita City, Hyogo Prefecture, northwest of Osaka. On a typical day in 2018, Saki finished her work, bid farewell to her colleagues, gathered her belongings, and left the office as usual. That evening, she boarded a train directly to Osaka. Once there, she was seen walking hand in hand with a man before the two disappeared into the night. On Saturday, February 17, 2018, the Hyogo Prefectural Police received a report from a woman stating that her daughter, Saki Kondo, had been missing for 2 days. Saki was well known for her dedication to her job, so when she failed to appear at work without prior notice and couldn't be reached, her supervisor contacted her mother to inquire about her whereabouts. Living in their hometown in Hyogo Prefecture, Saki's mother maintained daily communication with her daughter. Concerned after receiving the call from Saki's colleague, she attempted to reach Saki's cell phone but got no response. Another day passed without any word, and her unease deepened. Convinced something was wrong, she decided to alert the police. Acting swiftly, the authorities began their investigation. The missing person, Saki Kondo, a 27-year-old office worker, was employed in Mita City, Hyogo Prefecture. She had previously lived with her mother, older brother, and grandfather. Her father, who worked in metal processing, had been working in Thailand for an extended period. It was rare for him to have the opportunity to return home and reunite with the family. Almost every year, Saki's family planned a trip together to visit her father in Thailand. During these trips, Saki developed a strong desire to travel abroad. Determined to pursue her passion, Saki worked hard to improve her English, hoping to visit more countries in the future. Over the years, she attended a prestigious all-girls private school in Hyogo Prefecture. With excellent academic performance, she joined the school's brass band club and lived life to the fullest each day. From a young age, Saki placed great importance on language learning, particularly English. She made significant efforts and achieved a high level of proficiency, allowing her to read English magazines and watch English videos without any difficulty. After graduating from high school, she was accepted into a local university. With her strong English skills, she often spent her holidays traveling to European countries for short trips, where she made several international friends. After graduating, Saki started working early and went through a few job changes. 2 years ago, she secured a position as a saleswoman at a parts manufacturing company in Mita City. She then moved into the company's employee dormitory and began living independently. Saki was a warm and cheerful person. If she encountered a foreigner asking for directions while on the street, she was always kind enough to help. She often invited her foreign friends over to visit her home. At work, she was always willing and enthusiastic to assist her colleagues with any English-related issues they had. Saki was well liked by both her colleagues and family members. She was kind, friendly, intelligent, sensitive, and responsible, so she would never intentionally lose touch with the important people in her life. She lived a relatively simple life and seemed to hold no grudges against anyone. Her sudden disappearance left her family, friends, and colleagues deeply perplexed. The police then investigated Saki's social connections and uncovered a crucial lead from a friend. It turned out that Saki had told a friend on February 15th, the day she went missing, "I'm going on a date with an American after work. His name is Jay. I just met him online." This clue immediately caught the attention of the police. They compiled all the surveillance videos from relevant locations and streets to track Saki's movements after she left work. The footage revealed that a man suspected to be Jay was with her. On February 15th, 2018, the day after Valentine's Day, Saki left work and headed straight to a nearby train station. She took a train for about an hour to Morinomiya Station in Osaka. Around midnight, surveillance footage near the station showed her walking with a man. The two seemed close, displaying affectionate gestures, and were heading south. They looked like a couple. The surveillance system eventually tracked Saki and the man entering a hotel not far from the train station. They stayed at a B&B. However, in the following days, the surveillance footage only showed the man repeatedly entering and leaving the B&B, but Saki was not seen again. The man in the footage had a tall, slender build, and kept his face fully covered. Surveillance video showed him wearing black clothing, including black pants, a black short jacket, and black short boots. He also wore a black baseball cap, a white face mask, and a pair of dark sunglasses, completely obscuring his face. It seemed like he was trying to hide something. Additionally, for reasons unknown, he was always seen carrying a large backpack when entering and leaving the premises, which looked quite suspicious. The B&B they stayed at was located in the Higashisumiyoshi district of Osaka. It was an old 3-story building. The exterior white walls appeared to have not been cleaned for a long time, showing signs of yellowing. The walls had several low rectangular windows. The police managed to track down the owner of the B&B, hoping he still had a record of the guests who checked in at that time. However, unfortunately, it turned out to be a black market B&B. While it was listed for rent on Airbnb, a popular home rental app, it didn't have a proper business license. This meant that guests could book a room through the app without providing their real identity. As a result, the police were unable to determine the identity of the suspicious man. The police then shifted their focus back to the surveillance footage to track down the suspect. At that time, road surveillance systems were quite advanced and had a high coverage rate in the cities. The suspect seemed to be focused only on disguising himself and hiding his identity without much awareness of counter-surveillance measures. So his movements were relatively easy to trace through the video footage. The police quickly pinpointed his location. A few days after Saki's disappearance, the suspect had left Osaka and moved to several other B&Bs and was currently in Nara City. On February 22, 2018, a week after the disappearance, police arrested the suspect at a B&B in the area. The suspect was identified as Yevgeny Vasilievich Bayraktar, born in 1991, a 27-year-old American tourist. He went by the name Jay online, the same person who had gone on a date with Saki. Jay was born in Odessa, Ukraine. His mother Regina was Ukrainian and his father was Bulgarian, a professional doctor. When Jay was young, his parents divorced. Later, his mother met Benny Dacey, an engineer from the United States. They connected through a social networking site, specifically one that linked North American men with Eastern European women. After getting to know each other, Mr. Dacey fell in love with his mother. He personally traveled to Ukraine to bring her and Jay back to live with him. After returning to Texas, the two got married and started a new family life together. This is how Jay, then 9 years old, became an American citizen. Jay's stepfather treated him like his own son and cared for him with all his love. However, Jay never fully opened up to him. In his stepfather's eyes, Jay was very shy and always seemed to be just his mother's son. He had very few friends and didn't seem interested in expanding his social circle, only talking to his mother at home. No matter how much his stepfather cared, Jay chose to remain silent. On the other hand, it seemed that his mother had her own plans. After getting married and immigrating to the US, she began working towards obtaining a nursing degree. After several years of hard work and study, she achieved her dream and established herself in the United States. One day, she quietly took Jay and left Mr. Dacey. He searched tirelessly for them, but for a long time there was no news. This caused him great heartbreak. Then one day, he unexpectedly received a letter from his wife, Regina. Before he could feel any joy, he was left stunned. Regina had actually requested that he sign the divorce papers enclosed in the letter. It turned out that she had never truly loved him, but had only used him to become a legal US citizen. After leaving Texas, she and her son moved to Long Island, New York, where she found a job using her nursing certification. Not long after, she met and fell in love with a local engineer. They eventually planned to get married. It was at this point that she realized she was still legally married to Mr. Dacey, whom she had long forgotten. So she wrote to him openly requesting that he sign the divorce papers. Upon reading the letter, Mr. Dacey finally understood everything. He realized he had merely been a means for her to immigrate to the United States. No longer wanting to hold on in vain, he was ready to sign the divorce papers. Afterward, Regina was free to marry her new love as she had hoped. The two of them moved to a house in Mastic Beach and began the happy life they had long desired. In 2007, Jay enrolled at William Floyd High School in the area and excelled during his 4 years there. After graduating in 2011, he voluntarily enlisted in the military and successfully passed the exams. He joined the U.S. Air Force as he had hoped. According to regulations, Jay was required to serve in the military for 4 years. But for reasons unknown, he was discharged after only 11 months and returned to his hometown in Long Island. In the time that followed, he led an idle life. Those who knew Jay were surprisingly unanimous in their assessment of him. They described him as quiet, shy, and reserved. He seemed to have a deep fascination with Japanese culture, always eager to visit Japan for vacations, and had traveled there more than 10 times. However, his purpose in going to Japan was not so simple. Beyond sightseeing, he also longed to find and love a gentle and virtuous Japanese woman. Anyone familiar with him knew that he had an unusual obsession with Japanese women. He had once confessed to a friend that he wanted to marry a Japanese wife. At the end of January 2018, Jay obtained a 90-day tourist visa and flew from the United States to Kansai, Japan. He planned to stay there for an extended period to enjoy a fulfilling experience. From this perspective, it's no surprise that Jay met Saki. However, when confronted with accusations regarding Saki's disappearance, Jay refused to admit anything, stating, "I don't know anything about her." With the surveillance evidence in hand, the police, of course, did not believe his denial. On the same day Jay was arrested, the police also obtained a search warrant from the court. A search was conducted at the B&B where the two had stayed, but the police did not find Saki inside, nor did they find any of her belongings or suspicious bloodstains in the worst-case scenario. So what method did Jay use to make a living, breathing person suddenly disappear into thin air right before everyone's eyes? A sudden, ominous feeling began to take hold. The police realized that the chances of Saki still being alive somewhere were incredibly slim. It was possible that she had been murdered. Over the next 2 days, the police carefully searched the B&B again and also checked other B&Bs where the suspect had stayed in recent days. Finally, they found a crucial clue at one of these locations. The suspicious B&B was located at Hanazunokita Wenchum, Nishinari-ku, Osaka, just a 6 to 7 minute walk from the nearest station. It was a 3-story apartment building with gray exterior walls surrounded by scaffolding. It appeared to be under renovation. Like the others, this was also a black market B&B. The rooms were very simple and the surrounding environment was not great. Staying here for a night cost only 2,030 yen, which is about $14. Because of the low price, it was typically rented by night workers and laborers in the area. The owner of this B&B had a strong impression of Jay. He recounted, "A few days ago, a handsome foreign guest with a suitcase stayed at my B&B for one night. Foreign tourists are rare here, so I paid special attention to him." After observing the scene, several police officers accompanied the B&B owner to the room where Jay had stayed. As soon as they entered, they noticed a strange odor, a mix of something foul and an overpowering fragrance. The closer they got to the room, the more unbearable the smell became. When they opened the door, they found a small 6-square-meter room. The cramped space was barely enough for one person to lie down. The odor in the room was so strong that everyone present felt deeply uncomfortable. It didn't take long for them to discover a suitcase left behind in the room. It seemed to have been sprayed with a deodorizer, possibly in an attempt to mask some foul smell, but it had clearly failed. The investigators carefully approached and opened the suitcase. They were stunned when they found a decaying human head inside. The sight at the scene left many of those present shocked and horrified. DNA comparisons confirmed that the head belonged to Saki, who had been missing for nearly 10 days. Faced with this new evidence, Jay knew he could no longer deny the truth. Desperate, the perpetrator confessed everything, recounting how he had met Saki. Yet, even to the end, he repeatedly claimed, "I didn't mean to kill her." It turned out that while Jay was known to friends and family as a reserved and quiet person, he had a completely different persona online. Though he had deleted all his related accounts after the incident, the truth was uncovered through the recovery of his data records. Jay frequently used Tinder, a dating app with users worldwide, mainly young and middle-aged individuals. Users can upload photos of themselves, add their interests and skills, and introduce themselves to others. If two users show mutual interest, they can connect. Once connected, they can start chatting online. The app also supports location services, allowing users to connect with others nearby. Jay seemed to lack confidence in his appearance. He didn't post any real photos of himself on his profile. Instead, he found a picture online and used a more appealing online name, Jay. He had visited Japan multiple times and used the location suggestion feature of social media apps to connect and chat with local women, including Saki. He had been involved with nearly 10 Japanese women. Clearly unsatisfied with just chatting online, he tried every possible way to persuade them to go out and spend the night at a B&B to satisfy his desires. He was fascinated by a series of romantic encounters, engaging in one-night stands. In January 2018, Jay obtained a 90-day tourist visa for Japan and began his pursuit of beauty. This time, he chose the Kansai region, specifically selecting various black market B&Bs along the train line and frequently changing locations while meeting different Japanese women. On February 12, 2018, Jay checked into a B&B in the Higashikata ward of Osaka, planning to stay there for a week. During this time, he met Saki through a social app. Both Saki and Jay were the same age. Saki had a beautiful, delicate, gentle, and outgoing appearance, perfectly matching his ideal image of a Japanese woman. Saki also showed interest in the young foreign man. By chance, they successfully matched on the social app. Saki's English was excellent and there were no communication barriers, so her enthusiasm quickly attracted Jay. After a while, they exchanged contact information and added each other as friends on Instagram. A few days after chatting, Jay wanted to invite Saki to Osaka. However, Mita, where Saki lived, was 50 kilometers away from Osaka, requiring more than an hour by train. She felt it was too soon to meet in person since they had just met. So she told him, "I'm busy with work and would like to get to know you better first." No matter how hard Jay tried to be persuasive or assertive, Saki still refused to meet. Fearing that his target might slip away, Jay felt the need to be more decisive. He pressured her by saying, "If you don't meet me, I'll come to your house." Hearing this, Saki found it difficult to refuse. He continued to push her. "I know where you work and where you live. If you don't agree to meet, I'll come to your house." After much consideration, Saki finally compromised. She promised Jay she would come to Osaka to meet him after work on Thursday. The day of their meeting quickly arrived. That day after work, Saki took the train to Osaka's Morinomiya station. Jay was already waiting nearby. When Saki saw Jay in person, she was a bit surprised because he looked completely different from his profile picture on the social app. However, Jay was friendly and considerate. After a few pleasant exchanges, Saki let her guard down and the two walked together toward the B&B laughing and chatting closely. The next day was still a work day for Saki, so she planned to return to Mita early to be on time for work and had no intention of staying long. But she never imagined she would never get the chance to return. During the investigation, the police discovered that before Saki, there had been 4 to 5 other women who stayed at the same B&B with Jay. However, none of them were harmed. Saki was the only victim. Currently, finding the rest of Saki's remains had become the top priority. After several days of interrogation, Jay finally admitted to dismembering and disposing of Saki's body. However, he remained tight-lipped about what had happened at the B&B that night. On February 25, 2018, based on Jay's confession, the police went to the mountains near Osaka and entered the forest. After searching, they found a spot where the ground had been disturbed. There, the police discovered Saki's arm and her torso was found not far away. On the same day, Saki's legs were found in a bamboo grove in Kyoto. No one could have imagined that Saki, who was so kind and enthusiastic, would meet such a tragic end. Her family was devastated after learning the news about their daughter. The forensic report indicated that Saki died from suffocation. But to this day, Jay still refuses to confess the truth. He appears very fearful and repeatedly tells the police, "I didn't mean to." The police speculate that the May 2nd have had an argument at the B&B, during which Saki was accidentally killed by Jay. After realizing that Saki was no longer breathing, Jay became terrified. Once he calmed down, he started thinking of ways to cover up the incident, quickly turning off Saki's phone to prevent her family and friends from contacting her. He then logged out of their social media accounts to hide their connection. Finally, he searched the internet for various methods to dispose of the body and carried out his plan. The next day, Jay went out with a large bag on his back and purchased a saw and a bottle of deodorizer. He extended his stay at the room for a few more days and quietly dismembered Saki's body in the rented room. During the night, he disposed of her body parts in the mountains of Osaka and Kyoto. As for the head, the most easily identifiable part, he placed it in a suitcase and hid it in another B&B. To mask the odor, he sprayed a large amount of deodorizer in the room to prevent others from noticing. However, his efforts were ultimately futile. Strangely, Jay didn't seem to have any intention of fleeing Japan. When he was arrested, he was staying at a B&B in Nara. After the incident, he had ample time to escape and return to the US, but he didn't seem to have any such plans and continued his travels as planned. After hearing the news of his daughter's murder, Saki's father, who was far away in Thailand, hurried back to Japan. For the next year, he closely followed the developments of the case. He hoped the court would handle the case and severely punish the murderer to bring justice for his daughter. A year after the incident in 2019, the case was tried at the Kobe District Court. Since it couldn't be proven that Jay had the intent to commit murder, he was ultimately convicted of 2 crimes, manslaughter and disposing of a body. Jay appeared gaunt in court. He continued to defend himself, insisting that he never intended to kill her and pleaded for Saki's family to forgive him. He repeatedly apologized, saying, "I will carry the burden of this crime until the day I die." However, no one believed his words. Although his intent at the time of the crime couldn't be determined, his actions afterward showed no remorse. Instead of turning himself in, he tried to cover up the crime by deleting accounts, dismembering and burying the victim's body. These were all deliberate, selfish, and callous acts. Due to the clear evidence, the trial proceeded swiftly. On January 22, 2019, the Kobe District Court officially convicted Jay of manslaughter and other charges, sentencing him to 8 years in prison. This statement triggered widespread outrage. Saki's family felt profoundly disappointed, believing the punishment was far too lenient for the killer and that the full truth had not been uncovered. The trial concluded abruptly. With Jay remaining silent and uncooperative, they may never learn the reasons behind their daughter's murder. It is notable that this case marked the 8th illegal incident involving black market B&Bs in Japan within the past 2 years. The gravity of this case drew significant attention from authorities to the issue of unregulated B&Bs. In response, Japan has since taken steps to regulate the B&B industry. Privately managed B&Bs are now required to verify guests' identities to prevent black market operations from attracting tourists and becoming hotspots for criminal activity. Currently, Jay has served 5 years of his sentence and is set to be released in 3 years. Meanwhile, Saki, a vibrant young woman with a bright future and dreams of traveling the world, will never have the chance to realize those dreams. Emily Harrington, a 22-year-old elementary school teacher in Sumter County, Florida, worked at a small school where she was beloved by her students. Known for her kind and caring nature, Emily always went the extra mile to support her class. Her classroom was adorned with colorful posters and educational toys, and she often stayed late into the evening grading papers and preparing lessons. She was passionate about shaping young minds and hoped to make a lasting impact on their lives. However, Emily faced significant financial challenges, earning a meager annual salary of just $19,000. The low income made it difficult to cope with the rising costs of rent, groceries, and gas, leaving Emily struggling to make ends meet. She dreamed of creating a better future for herself and her students, but the financial strain was relentless. To alleviate some of the stress, Emily decided to enter into a sugar daddy arrangement, seeking older, affluent men who could provide her with financial support in return for companionship. This decision brought her to the Villages, America's largest retirement community and a hub of sexual freedom, where she met Hal Davenport, a 68-year-old retired businessman. Hal was generous, frequently treating Emily to expensive gifts and fine dining. Emily viewed this arrangement as a means of financial stability, allowing her to continue teaching and follow her passion despite the economic challenges. Emily also had a close bond with her father, Robert Harrington. After the passing of her mother, their relationship grew even stronger. Robert admired Emily's dedication to her work and was proud of her accomplishments, though he often worried about her financial struggles and the immense pressure she faced. He knew she was struggling but didn't know the full extent of it. Emily didn't share her sugar daddy arrangement with him, keeping it a secret to avoid upsetting him. In March 2022, Emily was focused on her work and future. She was preparing for the next school year and planning to attend a conference in Orlando to learn more about engaging her students in science. Emily dreamed of becoming a well-known educator, inspiring other teachers and students. But behind her positive outlook, she was dealing with the complexities of her sugar daddy arrangement, a secret that would soon have tragic consequences. On the morning of March 12, 2022, just before 7:30 a.m., Jasper Rivera, a maintenance worker at the U-Haul storage facility on County Road 466, just outside the Villages, Florida, started his routine checks. The sun had just risen, casting a pale light over the rows of orange and white storage units. As Jasper made his way down the aisles, he noticed something unusual near one of the storage units, a pile of what looked like discarded clothing. Curious, Jasper walked closer, but what he saw made him freeze in his tracks. It wasn't just a pile of clothes. It was a young woman's body, partially dressed and lying on the cold, rough ground. Her face was turned away, and she wasn't moving. Jasper's heart raced as he realized the seriousness of what he had found. He quickly pulled out his smartphone, his hands shaking, and dialed 911. When the operator answered, Jasper struggled to find the words to describe what he had just seen. "I found a body," he finally managed to say, his voice unsteady. The operator calmly asked him to stay on the line and provide details about the location while dispatching emergency services to the scene. Jasper followed her instructions, trying to stay calm, but the shock of what he had discovered was overwhelming. Within minutes, police officers from the Sumter County Sheriff's Office arrived at the U-Haul facility. By this time, a few early morning customers had arrived, some noticing the flashing lights of the patrol cars. The officers quickly cordoned off the area around the body with yellow crime scene tape, instructing curious onlookers to stay back. The victim was later identified as 22-year-old Emily Harrington, an elementary school teacher. Her body showed signs of blunt force trauma to the head, and there were dragged Evans on the ground, suggesting she had been moved to this location after her death. Emily was found wearing only her underwear, which raised immediate concerns about the circumstances leading to her death. Police noted the lack of blood at the scene, confirming the suspicion that Emily had been killed elsewhere. Jasper Rivera remained on the scene, visibly shaken but cooperative. He spoke to the officers about his discovery, still trying to process what he had found. The tragic scene marked the beginning of a complex and troubling investigation into Emily Harrington's untimely death. On March 12, 2022, shortly after the discovery of Emily Harrington's body at the U-Haul storage facility on County Road 466, the Sumter County Sheriff's Office launched a full-scale investigation. Detective Ashley Collins, a seasoned investigator with a reputation for solving difficult cases, arrived on the scene with her partner, Officer Devin Stevens. The two were known for their efficient teamwork, often handling complex cases in the rapidly growing community of the Villages. The scene at the U-Haul facility was grim. Emily's body lay on the ground, partially clothed, with clear signs of blunt force trauma to her head. The area was eerily quiet, with only the of early morning traffic in the distance. The police quickly cordoned off the area with yellow crime scene tape, keeping curious onlookers and reporters at bay. Detective Collins carefully examined the body, noting that there was no blood on the ground, confirming that Emily had likely been killed elsewhere and then moved. Nearby security cameras were the first items on the detective's checklist. They'd hoped to catch a glimpse of who had brought Emily to this isolated location. Detective Collins directed Officer Stevens to collect the footage from the facility's office, which was equipped with several cameras covering the entrance and the rows of storage units. They would later review the footage at the station, looking for any suspicious vehicles or people who had been near the scene around the time of the murder. As they continued their investigation, the detectives noticed dragged Devons on the gravel near Emily's body, indicating that she had been pulled from a vehicle and left at the site. This was a crucial piece of evidence that suggested a deliberate attempt to hide the body, possibly to delay its discovery. Detective Collins instructed the forensic team to take detailed photos of the Devons and collect any fibers or debris that might have come from the suspect's clothing or vehicle. The forensic team, led by Dr. Grace Kwok, arrived shortly after to process the scene. They used advanced tools, such as luminol, to search for any hidden blood traces, even though the scene appeared clean. The lack of visible blood confirmed the detective's theory that Emily had been killed elsewhere, making it crucial to identify where the initial crime took place. As the team worked, Detective Collins interviewed Jasper Rivera, the maintenance worker who had found the body. Jasper was still visibly shaken, but provided a clear and detailed account of his discovery. He described how he initially thought the body was just a pile of clothes until he got closer. His account helped the detectives establish a timeline and narrowed down when the body had been left at the facility. The investigation at the crime scene was methodical and thorough, but it left the detectives with more questions than answers. They knew the key to solving Emily's murder lay in finding out where she had been killed and who had the motive to end her life so violently. The first person of interest in the investigation was Harold Hall Davenport, a 68-year-old widower and retired businessman living in the Villages. Hall was well known in the community for his wealth and charm. Originally from Zanesville, Ohio, he had built a successful career in real estate and enjoyed a comfortable retirement in Florida's largest retirement community. Hall and Emily Harrington had met through an online arrangement where Emily sought financial support from older wealthy men. Their relationship began with Hall providing Emily with money and gifts in exchange for sex and companionship. Over time, Hall became increasingly attached to Emily, viewing her as more than just a sugar daughter. His attachment soon turned into possessiveness, a trait that had caused problems in his past relationships. When police first interviewed Hal on March 13, 2022, a day after Emily's body was found, he appeared cooperative but nervous. Hal acknowledged his relationship with Emily, admitting he had last seen her 2 days before her death. He claimed they had spent the evening together at his home, where they watched old movies on Turner Classic Movies and had dinner from Outback Steakhouse, a favorite of Hall's. He insisted their relationship was strictly consensual and that he had no reason to harm her. Despite his initial calm demeanor, detectives noticed inconsistencies in Hull's story. When asked about his whereabouts on the night of Emily's death, Hull hesitated, stumbling over his words. He eventually provided an alibi stating he had been home alone, but the detectives found it suspicious that he couldn't provide any witnesses or details to back up his claim. His nervousness grew as the questioning continued, and he began to show signs of agitation, raising his voice when pressed about the nature of his relationship with Emily. The detectives also learned that Howell had a history of controlling behavior. His past relationships had ended badly, often due to his possessiveness. Police also discovered how his wife in Ohio supposedly committed suicide by driving her car into a lake just days after asking for a divorce. This information painted a picture of a man who could potentially act out of jealousy or fear of losing control. As the investigation progressed, Howell's name remained at the top of the suspect list. The police focused on gathering evidence that could either confirm or disprove his involvement in Emily's death. They obtained a warrant to search Hall's home, looking for any signs that he might have been involved in the crime, a search for traces of blood, any of Emily's belongings, or anything that might link Hall to the murder. Hall Davenport's initial calm demeanor began to crack under the pressure of the investigation, but the detectives knew they needed more than just suspicion to build a solid case against him. The second person of interest in the investigation was Mike Andrews, a 21-year-old part-time server at Applebee's and a community college student in nearby Leesburg. Mike had been dating Emily Harrington for about a year, and although their relationship had its ups and downs, they were generally seen as a happy couple. Mike was outgoing, ambitious, and well-liked by his peers, often dreaming of transferring to a 4-year university to study business. Despite his youthful energy, Mike was also deeply protective of Emily, though he had no idea about her involvement with Hall Davenport or Sugar Daddy. On March 14, 2022, 2 days after Emily's body was discovered, the police brought Mike in for questioning. When the detectives asked him about his relationship with Emily, Mike described her as caring, smart, and always supportive of his goals. He said they had been planning a weekend getaway to Orlando, where they hoped to visit Universal Studios. He seemed genuinely shocked when he learned of Emily's death, his voice trembling as he asked the detectives how something so terrible could have happened. However, when detectives asked Mike about Emily's recent behavior, he mentioned something that raised their suspicions. A few weeks before her death, Mike had tested positive for an STD, which he believed he had contracted from Emily. This revelation had caused tension between them, and although they had talked about it, Mike admitted that he was hurt and confused. He had confronted Emily, but she had reassured him that it was likely a misunderstanding, and they had tried to move past it. During the interrogation, Mike's emotions fluctuated between sadness and anger. He was clearly grieving the loss of Emily, but became defensive when the detectives asked if he had any idea about her financial struggles or other relationships. Mike insisted that he knew nothing about Emily's sugar daddy arrangement with Hall Davenport and stated that if he had known, he would have broken up with her. The detectives noted his frustration, but there was no clear evidence linking him to the murder. Mike also provided an alibi for the night of Emily's death, stating that he had been working a late shift at Applebee's, followed by a study session at home. The detectives verified his work schedule, confirming that he had indeed clocked out at 11 p.m. His alibi was further supported by a neighbor who saw him arrive home shortly after midnight. Although Mike had a possible motive due to the tension over the STD, his alibi and emotional response made it difficult for the detectives to pin him as the murderer. They kept him on their radar, but like with Hall Davenport, they knew they needed more concrete evidence before drawing any conclusions. The third person the police turned their attention to was Robert Harrington, Emily's 47-year-old father. Robert was a hardworking man who had raised Emily on his own after his wife passed away when Emily was just a teenager. He was known in the community as a devoted father who was proud of his daughter's accomplishments. However, the recent discovery of a positive pregnancy test in Emily's apartment, along with her sexual involvement with older men, had left him deeply worried and confused. On March 15, 2022, 3 days after Emily's body was found, Robert was brought in for questioning. The detectives knew he had been close to Emily and wanted to understand the nature of their relationship leading up to her death. Robert was visibly distraught during the interview, his eyes red from lack of sleep. He spoke lovingly about Emily, describing her as a bright, kind-hearted young woman who had always been dedicated to her students. He mentioned how she had dreamed of one day starting a family of her own, and how devastated he was that she would never have that chance. When the detectives asked Robert about the pregnancy test they found, he admitted that he had recently discovered it while visiting Emily's apartment. He had been shocked, unsure of how to approach the subject with his daughter. Robert explained that he had tried to reach out to her to discuss it, but Emily had seemed distant, brushing off his concerns. He had no idea who the father might be and was deeply troubled by the thought of Emily having sex with a much older man like Hall Davenport. Despite his clear distress, the detectives pressed Robert about his whereabouts on the night of Emily's death. Robert explained that he had been at home watching TV and working on a project for his job as an electrician. He lived alone, and without anyone to corroborate his story, the detectives couldn't immediately verify his alibi. They noticed that Robert grew increasingly agitated during the questioning, his hands trembling as he tried to explain his concerns about Emily's recent behavior. Robert's love for his daughter was evident, but the detectives couldn't ignore the possibility that he might have acted out of anger or fear after discovering her secret life. They also considered the possibility that he had been upset about the pregnancy and the idea of Emily being sexually involved with multiple men. However, without concrete evidence, it was difficult to determine if Robert's emotional state had pushed him to commit a crime. The detectives remained cautious, recognizing that Robert's grief was genuine, but they kept him on their list of potential suspects. As with the other individuals they had interviewed, they needed more evidence to either rule him out or confirm their suspicions. On March 18, 2022, 5 days after Emily Harrington's body was found, a significant break in the case emerged. It was a warm afternoon in the Villages, with temperatures hovering around 75 degrees Fahrenheit when Detective Ashley Collins received a call from the forensic lab. The team had finally analyzed the security footage from the U-Haul storage facility along with additional evidence collected from the scene. The results revealed something the detectives hadn't anticipated: a partial license plate number from a vehicle that had entered the facility late on the night of March 11th. The footage showed a dark-colored set-in pulling into the facility around 11:45 p.m., just hours before Emily's body was discovered. The car's movements were suspicious. It didn't park near any storage units and remained stationary for only a few minutes before quickly exiting the facility. The partial plate number combined with the vehicle's make and model, a gray 2004 Honda Civic, gave the detectives a crucial lead. Detective Collins and Officer Devin Stevens immediately set to work cross-referencing the information with the Department of Motor Vehicles database. The search led them to an unexpected match: a car registered to Hall Davenport. This discovery added new weight to the growing suspicions around Hall, who had been cooperative yet evasive during his previous interviews. The detectives knew this evidence could be the key to linking Hull directly to the crime. With this new information, the detectives obtained a warrant to search Hull Davenport's home and car. On the morning of March 19, 2022, a team of officers arrived at Hull's residence in the Villages. The search was thorough, with detectives combing through Hull's personal belongings, electronic devices, and the dark-colored sedan parked in his driveway. Inside the car, they found fibers matching the fabric of the clothing Emily was last seen wearing, as well as traces of soil that matched the area near the U-Haul facility. The detectives realized they were closing in on the truth. The combination of the forensic evidence, the security footage, and Howell's erratic behavior pointed to him as the prime suspect. The pieces of the puzzle were beginning to fit together, and the investigation was rapidly approaching its conclusion. On the morning of March 20, 2022, the Sumter County Sheriff's Office made a decisive move. Armed with the evidence they had gathered, Detectives Ashley Collins and Devin Stevens approached Howell Davenport's home in the Villages. It was a quiet Sunday with many residents enjoying breakfast at local spots like Perkins and Culver's, or taking morning strolls along the golf courses. But for Howell, this day would be anything but ordinary. The detectives knocked on Hall's door at their presence, signaling the end of the investigation. When Howell opened the door, he looked surprised but not entirely shocked. Over the past few days, the pressure had been mounting, and it seemed he had sensed this moment was coming. Detective Collins informed Howell that they had enough evidence to place him under arrest for the murder of Emily Harrington. Howell's face paled, and he slumped into a chair, muttering that it had all been a mistake. He confessed that on the night of March 11th, he had gone to confront Emily after misinterpreting the document titled "Pedophilie Kids" on her computer. His severe dyslexia had led him to believe it meant she was abusing children, and in a fit of rage and confusion, he had struck Emily with a heavy object. Hal explained that he had never meant to kill Emily, but when she fell to the floor unconscious, he panicked. In his frantic state, he decided to move her body, hoping to delay its discovery and buy himself some time to figure out what to do next. He had driven to the U-Haul storage facility in the middle of the night, hoping the isolated location would conceal her body long enough for him to come up with a plan. As the detectives placed Howell in handcuffs, his demeanor shifted from one of shock to resignation. He offered no resistance, quietly cooperating as they led him to the patrol car. The neighborhood, known for its laissez-faire sexual atmosphere and retirees, was now buzzing with the news of the arrest. Neighbors watched from their windows, some in disbelief that the kindly old man they knew could be capable of such a crime. Emily's family was notified of the arrest later that day. Her father, Robert Harrington, was devastated but relieved that the person responsible for his daughter's death had been caught. He struggled to comprehend how a man who had seemed so generous and caring could have done something so terrible. The arrest of Hull Davenport marked a critical turning point in the case, bringing a sense of closure to a community shaken by the tragedy. However, it also left lingering questions about the complexities of Hull's mind and the tragic misunderstanding that had led to Emily's death. The trial of Hull Davenport began on April 15, 2022 with the Sumter County Courthouse, a modern building located in the heart of the Villages. The courtroom was filled with local residents, many of whom had followed the case closely through news reports on WFTV and other local stations. The atmosphere was tense, with a mix of curiosity and sorrow hanging in the air. The prosecution, led by Assistant State Attorney Laura Reed, argued that Hull Davenport's actions were the result of a reckless and dangerous mindset. Reed, known for her firm but fair approach, laid out the case clearly. She presented evidence showing how Hull's dyslexia had led to a tragic misunderstanding but emphasized that this did not excuse the violence. Reed described how Hull's confrontation with Emily had escalated into a deadly encounter, leading to her brutal death. She portrayed Emily as a dedicated teacher with a bright future ahead of her, contrasting this with the devastating end she met due to Hull's actions. In response, Hull's defense attorney, Morgan, took a different approach. Morgan, a well-respected defense lawyer known for his skillful arguments, argued that Howell's dyslexia had severely impaired his judgment. He presented evidence showing that Howell had genuinely misinterpreted the document on Emily's computer. According to Morgan, Howell's misreading had led him to believe Emily was involved in something sinister. The defense claimed that Howell's actions were not premeditated, but were instead the result of a momentary lapse in judgment driven by his frustration with his disability. Throughout the trial, Emily's family, including her father, Robert Harrington, watched from the courtroom. They were visibly emotional, often seen holding hands or wiping away tears as the details of Emily's final moments were discussed. Their pain was palpable as they listened to the arguments being presented. After several days of testimony and closing arguments, the jury deliberated and reached a verdict on April 21, 2022. They found Hull Davenport guilty of manslaughter. The jury concluded that while Hull had not intended to kill Emily, his reckless actions had directly led to her death. This verdict was seen as a compromise between acknowledging Hull's severe misjudgment and recognizing the lack of premeditation. On April 28, 2022, Howell was sentenced to 36 months in prison. The sentencing drew mixed reactions. Some felt the sentence was too lenient given the grisly nature of the crime, while others believed it was appropriate given Hull's age and his severe dyslexia. Emily's family was disappointed with the outcome, but found some solace in the fact that justice had been served, even if it was not as harsh as they had hoped. The trial's conclusion marked a somber end to a tragic chapter for Emily's loved ones and the community of the Villages. After Hal Davenport was sentenced in April 2022, life slowly began to return to normal in the Villages, Florida. Emily's family faced a long and difficult road to healing. Her father, Robert Harrington, continued to live in the same home he had shared with Emily. The house was filled with memories of her, from photos on the walls of her belongings that still lingered. Robert, profoundly impacted by his daughter's death, turned to counseling to navigate his overwhelming grief. He also became an active advocate for victims' families in his community, using his painful experience to support others enduring similar losses. Meanwhile, Hal Davenport, now serving a 36-month sentence, was incarcerated in a state prison. At 68, the transition to prison life was harsh and unforgiving, a stark contrast to the comfort and freedom he once enjoyed in the Villages. Hal's health began to decline during his time in prison, as he faced the challenges of isolation and the rigid routines of incarceration. While his family remained supportive, they struggled to reconcile the man they knew with the crime he had committed. Over time, life in the Villages returned to its regular rhythm, yet Emily Harrington's memory lingered. Her story became a somber reminder of life's fragility and the far-reaching effects of a single tragic event on countless lives. Tina Bolland, a 42-year-old stay-at-home mom from Rio Rancho, New Mexico, was a well-loved figure in her community. Known for her warmth and sociable nature, Tina was the neighbor who remembered birthdays, organized block parties, and frequently volunteered at her children's school. She lived with her husband, Michael Bolland, a 46-year-old insurance agent, and their two teenage children, aged 16 and 15. By April 2014, Tina was at the height of her involvement in neighborhood activities. She was often spotted driving her kids to practices in her blue Honda Odyssey, occasionally stopping at the local Starbucks for her favorite caramel macchiato. Tina was also a dedicated member of her church, where she helped coordinate charity events and bake sales. However, beneath this picture-perfect exterior lay a hidden side of Tina's life that very few knew about. Despite her image as a devoted wife and mother, Tina was secretly involved in a series of sexual relationships with other women in her community. Tina was the centerpiece of this clandestine circle, engaging in passionate affairs with about half a dozen other stay-at-home moms in her neighborhood. These relationships brought her a sense of thrill and liberation, contrasting sharply with the monotony of her suburban life. In the days leading up to her death, Tina was particularly exhilarated by her budding romance with Hope Johnson, a 45-year-old woman who had recently moved into the area. Tina's friends noticed her unusually cheerful demeanor but remained unaware of the secret life she was leading. This hidden world of passion and jealousy was about to unravel, culminating in a tragedy that would send shockwaves through the entire community. On the morning of April 15, 2014, at approximately 8:30 a.m., Tina Boland's lifeless body was discovered at the bottom of the stairs in her home in Rio Rancho of New Mexico. It was a typical spring morning, with the sun shining brightly and the sound of birds chirping in the trees outside. The discovery was made by Lisa DeAngelis, Tina's close friend and neighbor, who had come over after not receiving any responses to her text and calls the night before. Lisa and Tina had a strong bond, often meeting up at the local Panera Bread for coffee and catching up on the latest gossip. That morning when Lisa arrived at Tina's house, she noticed that the front door was slightly ajar. Concerned, she called out Tina's name as she stepped inside, but there was no response. As she walked further into the house, her heart began to race. The house was eerily quiet with the faint sound of the TV playing in the background. When Lisa reached the staircase, she was met with a sight that would haunt her forever. Tina was lying at the bottom of the stairs, her body twisted in an unnatural position. She was wearing a light blue nightgown, and her hair was matted with blood from a cut on her lip. Lisa froze in shock, her mind racing to make sense of what she was seeing. After a few moments, Lisa snapped out of her daze and frantically dialed 911. Her voice trembled as she spoke to the operator, trying to explain what she had found. The 911 operator remained calm, asking Lisa to stay on the line until help arrived. Lisa could hardly keep her composure as she paced back and forth, her eyes never leaving Tina's motionless body. Within minutes, the sound of sirens filled the air as emergency responders arrived at the scene. Lisa was visibly shaken as paramedics rushed into the house. She stepped aside to let them work, her hands trembling as she watched them assess Tina's condition. Despite their efforts, it was clear that Tina was already gone. The paramedics confirmed that Tina was dead, and Lisa collapsed into a chair, tears streaming down her face. The tragedy of Tina Boland's death had just begun to unfold, leaving a community in shock and searching for answers. The Rio Rancho Police Department arrived quickly at Tina Boland's home on April 15, 2014, around 8:45 a.m., just minutes after Lisa DeAngelis called 911. The first officers on the scene were Detective Martina Lopez, a seasoned investigator known for her sharp instincts, and Officer James Carson, a young patrolman with 2 years on the force. As they entered the house, they were met with the unsettling sight of Tina's body at the bottom of the stairs. Detective Lopez immediately took charge, instructing Officer Carson to secure the scene and make sure no one else entered the home. The staircase where Tina was found was carpeted with beige walls that showed no signs of a struggle. Tina's body was lying in a twisted position, her head turned awkwardly to the side. A small pool of blood had formed under her head, but the scene was relatively clean, with no obvious signs of a violent altercation. The detective carefully examined the area around Tina's body. The staircase was steep with wooden railings that seemed solid and well-maintained. Lopez noted that Tina was barefoot, and there was a noticeable absence of anything that could have caused her to trip. The nightgown Tina was wearing was slightly torn at the hem, but there were no visible signs of a fight. As she continued her inspection, Lopez's eyes were drawn to a few details that seemed out of place. Tina's phone was found halfway down the stairs. Its screen cracked as if it had been dropped during a fall. But there was something odd about the position of Tina's body. It didn't match the typical pattern seen in accidental falls. The angle at which she had landed raised immediate red flags for the detective. The paramedics who had already confirmed Tina's death stepped back as the police continued their investigation. Detective Lopez ordered a full forensic sweep of the house. She wanted to ensure that every possible piece of evidence was collected. The team used luminol to check for any hidden traces of blood, and fingerprint powder was dusted on the stair railings and nearby surfaces. As Lopez observed the scene, she couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this than met the eye. Her instincts told her that Tina's death might not be the tragic accident it first appeared to be. The lack of defensive wounds, the strange position of the body, and the eerie stillness of the house all pointed to something more sinister. With this in mind, the investigation would move forward with a closer look at those closest to Tina, beginning with her husband and her friends. Lisa DeAngelis, 39, was the first person police turned to in their investigation. Known in the neighborhood as a nurturing and caring individual, Lisa had a reputation for being a devoted friend, especially to Tina Bullitt. They were often seen together at local spots like Panera Bread, and their children played together frequently. But as the police began to dig deeper, they uncovered a relationship between Lisa and Tina that went far beyond friendship. During her initial interrogation, Lisa appeared shaken but cooperative. Detective Martina Lopez, who was leading the investigation, noted Lisa's nervousness. She fidgeted constantly, her hands trembling as she answered questions. At first, Lisa described her friendship with Tina in typical terms, talking about their shared activities and the closeness they had developed over the years. However, as the questioning continued, it became clear that there was much more to their relationship. Under pressure, Lisa admitted that she and Tina had been involved in a secret sexual relationship for several months. The revelations stunned the detectives. Lisa described the relationship as passionate but complicated. Tina had confided in her, revealing that she was unhappy in her marriage and found comfort and excitement in their affair, and that Lisa made her feel like, quote, a Disney princess. But recently, things had taken a turn for the worse. Lisa explained that Tina had started to pull away from her, becoming increasingly distant. Tina had met a new neighbor, Hope Johnson, and had quickly developed a sexual relationship with her. Lisa confessed that she felt jealous and hurt, and she and Tina had argued about it several times, especially after Lisa had caught Hope and Tina having sex in her daughter's bed. Just a few days before Tina's death, Lisa had confronted her, telling Tina that she couldn't continue their relationship, but she was seeing someone else. The police were intrigued by Lisa's admission. Jealousy was a powerful motive, and Lisa's emotional state raised suspicions. But when asked directly if she had anything to do with Tina's death, Lisa firmly denied it. She claimed that their argument was heated, but not violent. According to Lisa, she left Tina's house that evening upset, but never imagined it would be the last time she saw her friend alive. Lisa's interrogation left detectives with more questions than answers. Her jealousy was evident, and her connection to Tina placed her squarely under the microscope. But without concrete evidence, they couldn't make an arrest. The investigation would have to continue, with detectives looking closely at the other people in Tina's life who might have had a reason to harm her. Hope Johnson, 45, was the second person the police turned to in their investigation. Hope had recently moved to Rio Rancho from Atlanta, Georgia, just 6 months prior to Tina Boland's death. On the surface, Hope appeared to be a polished and professional woman. She was a real estate agent known for her sharp business acumen and poised demeanor. Her arrival in the neighborhood had caused a bit of a stir, with many of the local moms curious about the new resident. Hope's relationship with Tina had developed quickly. Neighbors noticed that the two women were often together, sharing private moments at local spots like the Starbucks on Southern Boulevard. They frequently texted each other, and there were whispers that their relationship might be more than just friendship. When Detective Martina Lopez questioned Hope, she maintained a calm and composed exterior, but there was an underlying tension that the detective couldn't ignore. Hope initially downplayed her relationship with Tina, describing it as a friendly connection formed through shared interests and neighborhood activities. However, when pressed, Hope admitted that their relationship had become intimate. Hope described Tina as someone who was charming and fun to be around, but also very persistent. She claimed that Tina had made the first move, DM her naked pictures, and suggesting they take their friendship to, quote, a place beyond your wildest dreams. At first, Hope was hesitant, knowing that Tina was married, but eventually, she gave in to the excitement of their secret affair. Despite the close bond they shared, Hope insisted that she had no reason to harm Tina. She revealed that Tina had recently begun expressing more serious feelings for her, even hinting at leaving her husband, Michael, to be with her. But this level of commitment made Hope uncomfortable. She had only just settled into the neighborhood and was dealing with her own marital issues. The last thing she wanted was to be entangled in a scandal. Hope's calm demeanor began to crack when detectives asked about the night of Tina's death. Hope claimed she was at home with her husband, but there was something in her voice that made the detectives doubt her story. Text messages retrieved from Tina's phone showed that Hope and Tina had been in contact late into the evening, and some of the messages suggested tension between them. There were even videos of the two having sex, which Hope had shared with other soccer moms in a way that flaunted their relationship. Though Hope denied any involvement in Tina's death, her connection to the victim and the underlying jealousy she harbored made her a key suspect in the investigation. The police would need more evidence to either confirm or clear her of suspicion. Michael Ballin, 46, was the third person the police focused on in their investigation. As Tina Boland's husband, Michael was naturally a person of interest. Michael worked as an insurance agent, a job that kept him busy and often on the road. Neighbors described him as a quiet and somewhat distant figure rarely seen at community events or social gatherings. He seemed to prefer spending his time away from home, and it was common knowledge that his relationship with Tina had been strained for years. When Detective Martina Locus and her team interviewed Michael, he appeared stoic and detached, a stark contrast to the emotional turmoil surrounding Tina's death. He admitted that his marriage to Tina had been rocky for some time. They had grown apart, with Michael spending more and more time on business trips or simply avoiding being at home. "I needed to get away from that awful woman," Michael said during the interview, his words carrying a bitterness that raised red flags for the detectives. Michael claimed he had no idea about Tina's secret sexual relationships with other women. He insisted that he was completely unaware of her affair with Lisa DeAngelis and was shocked to learn about her involvement with Hope Johnson. However, the detectives couldn't help but wonder if Michael's ignorance was genuine or if he was hiding something. The night of Tina's death, Michael told the police he had been out of town on a business trip in Los Angeles. He provided the names of colleagues who could verify his whereabouts, and at first glance, his alibi seemed solid. But there was something about Michael's demeanor that didn't sit right with the detectives. He was too calm, too measured, and his lack of visible grief made them suspicious. The investigation into Michael's possible motive revealed that he had a lot to lose if his marriage to Tina ended in divorce. Tina had inherited a significant amount of money from her parents, and if they divorced, Michael would likely lose access to that wealth. Moreover, there were rumors that Michael had been seeing other women and even some men during his frequent business trips, adding another layer of complexity to the case. Despite a strong alibi, Michael remained on the police's radar. His distant relationship with Tina, his financial concerns, and his possible infidelity all pointed to a potential motive. The detectives knew they needed to dig deeper into Michael's life and alibi before they could rule him out as a suspect. On April 18, 2014, 3 days after Tina Boland's death, a significant breakthrough came in the form of new evidence. It was a cool, overcast morning in Rio Rancho, and Detective Martina Lopez was reviewing the case files when she received a call from the forensic team. They had discovered something unusual in Tina's home, a small but telling detail that had initially been overlooked. The new evidence was a scuff mark on the wall near the bottom of the stairs where Tina had been found. The mark was faint, but it suggested that something or someone had made contact with the wall during the fall. Forensic experts used advanced techniques, including 3D imaging, to analyze the mark. They concluded that it was consistent with the sole of a shoe, indicating that Tina might have been pushed or tripped rather than having fallen accidentally. This discovery was a turning point in the investigation. The scuff marks suggested foul play, and Detective Locus knew they had to revisit the crime scene with fresh eyes. The forensic team also found traces of skin cells under Tina's fingernails, which were sent to the lab for DNA analysis. This led the police to consider that Tina might have fought back against her attacker. With this new evidence, the detectives intensified their focus on the three main suspects: Lisa DeAngelis, Hope Johnson, and Michael Boland. They brought each of them back in for further questioning, this time armed with the knowledge that Tina's death was likely no accident. The discovery of the scuff mark and the DNA evidence under Tina's nails suggested that she had struggled with someone before her fatal fall. The police also re-examined the text messages on Tina's phone, paying closer attention to the exchanges she had with Lisa and Hope in the hours leading up to her death. The messages hinted at tension and jealousy, particularly between Tina and Lisa. These messages, combined with the new physical evidence, pointed to a possible confrontation. As the investigation progressed, Detective Lopez felt they were closing in on the truth. The new evidence gave the team a clearer picture of what might have happened that night. Tina's death was beginning to look less like a tragic accident and more like the result of a heated altercation. The police were determined to find out who was responsible, knowing that the scuff mark on the wall and the DNA under Tina's nails could be the key to solving the case. On April 20th, 2014, the investigation into Tina Boland's death took a decisive turn. The DNA analysis from the skin cells found under Tina's fingernails came back with a match: Lisa DeAngelis. This discovery, combined with the scuff mark on the wall near the stairs, led Detective Martina Lopez to believe that Tina's death was not an accident, but a homicide. Lisa DeAngelis, 39, was a stay-at-home mom known for her nurturing personality. However, beneath her calm exterior, she harbored deep insecurities and fears of losing the people she loved. Tina Boland was at the center of these fears. While their sexual relationship had been the most passionate one of their lives, it was also fraught with jealousy and tension. When Tina started having sex with their new neighbor, Hope Johnson, Lisa felt threatened and betrayed. On the night of April 15, 2014, Tina and Lisa had a heated argument at Tina's home after Lisa caught Hope and Tina having sex. The argument escalated quickly with emotions running high. Lisa, in a fit of jealousy and desperation, pushed Tina during the argument. The push caused Tina to lose her balance and fall down the stairs, hitting her head on the way down. The scuff mark on the wall was from Tina's shoe as she tried to regain her balance. The detectives pieced together that Tina had fought back, scratching Lisa in the process, which explained the skin cells under Tina's nails. After realizing what had happened, Lisa panicked. She left the scene, hoping the fall would be ruled an accident, but the physical evidence told a different story. On the morning of April 21, 2014, the police moved to arrest Lisa DeAngelis. Detective Lopez, along with a team of officers, arrived at Lisa's home. Lisa was visibly shaken when the police informed her that she was under arrest for the murder of Tina Boland. She didn't resist but appeared in shock, as if the reality of her actions had only just hit her. As she was led away in handcuffs, Lisa muttered that she never meant to hurt Tina. She just wanted her back. The arrest sent shock waves through the neighborhood. Tina's family, especially her husband Michael, was devastated by the news. They had lost a wife and mother, and now they had to come to terms with the fact that her death was the result of a senseless act of jealousy. Michael, who had been cleared of any wrongdoing, expressed his disbelief that someone so close to Tina could do something so terrible. The trial of Lisa DeAngelis for the murder of Tina Boland began in late October 2014 at the Sandoval County Courthouse. The case had garnered significant media attention, with local news outlets like KRQE and the Albuquerque Journal covering every development. The courtroom was packed with spectators, including many of Tina's friends and family members who were eager to see justice served. The prosecution was led by Assistant District Attorney James Wallace, a 45-year-old seasoned prosecutor known for his tenacity in the courtroom. Wallace argued that Lisa DeAngelis had acted out of intense jealousy, leading her to push Tina down the stairs during a heated argument. He presented the physical evidence, including the scuff mark on the wall and the DNA analysis of the skin cells found under Tina's fingernails. Wallace emphasized that Tina's death was not an accident, but the result of a deliberate act of violence. On the other side, the defense was handled by public defender Karen Michalowski, a 38-year-old attorney known for her compassionate approach to her clients. Michalowski argued that Lisa's actions were not premeditated, and that the push was a result of an emotional outburst rather than an intent to kill. She portrayed Lisa as a woman who was deeply in love with Tina and had simply lost control in a moment of overwhelming emotion. Michalowski pleaded with the jury to consider Lisa's remorse and the fact that she had no prior history of violence. Throughout the trial, Tina's family watched with a mix of grief and anger. Michael Boland, Tina's husband, struggled to hold back tears as he listened to the details of his wife's final moments. The impact of Tina's death on her family was clear, and their presence in the courtroom served as a reminder of the real human cost of the crime. After several days of testimony and evidence presentation, the jury deliberated for only a few hours before returning with a verdict. On November 3, 2014, Lisa DeAngelis was found guilty of second-degree murder. The judge sentenced her to 20 years in prison, a sentence that many in the courtroom felt was too lenient given the circumstances. The verdict brought some closure to Tina's family, but the pain of losing her would never fully heal. For Lisa, the sentence marked the beginning of a long journey of reflection and regret. The trial and its outcome left a lasting impact on the Rio Rancho community, a stark reminder of how quickly love can turn to tragedy. After the trial, life in Rio Rancho slowly returned to normal, but the community was forever changed by the events surrounding Tina Boland's death. For Tina's family, the aftermath was a mix of sorrow and adjustment. Michael Boland, now a single parent, focused on rebuilding his life and caring for his children. He continued working as an insurance agent, but his once quiet demeanor became even more reserved. Michael found solace in his work and spending time with his children who were struggling to cope with the loss of their mother. Lisa DeAngelis, after being convicted of second-degree murder, began serving her 20-year sentence at the New Mexico Women's Correctional Facility. Her life in prison was marked by isolation and reflection. The once active community member now faced a daily routine behind bars. Lisa's trial and conviction were covered extensively by local news outlets like K or QB, and her case became a cautionary tale about the consequences of unchecked jealousy and emotional turmoil. For Hope Johnson, the new neighbor and former suspect in the case, life continued with a mix of relief and lingering anxiety. Shortly after the trial concluded, she decided to move away from Rio Rancho, hoping for a fresh start in a new city. Although she had been cleared of any wrongdoing, her reputation in the neighborhood was irreparably damaged, and staying only served as a painful reminder of the past year. The aftermath of Tina Boland's death and Lisa DeAngelis' trial resonated far beyond those directly involved. It became a poignant reminder of how personal relationships and unresolved emotional conflicts can spiral into devastating consequences. The case underscored the critical need for addressing and managing emotional struggles before they escalate, leaving an indelible mark on the community and those affected by the tragedy. Thanks for diving into another mystery with us. If you enjoyed unraveling the clues and chasing the truth, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give us a thumbs up. Your support helps us bring you more thrilling cases and deep dives into the unknown.